Every day we ride the train, it's almost inevitable that we see some user on their phone swiping away on a cracked screen. How that screen came to be that way, we can only speculate. Maybe it was an accidental drop. Maybe a Clash Royale rage quit. Totally get that. Maybe it was left in a pocket during an ill-advised climb in a rebar tube at the City Museum in St. Louis. Whatever the case, the user is destined to game, surf, and stream on a shattered screen for months or even years, waiting for their contract or lease to expire, or at least to move that puppy off their credit card statement. Motorola is trying to end that angst with its third generation of unbreakable phone. I'm Adam Dowd with Bored at Work, and this is our full review of the Moto Z2 Force. Motorola's latest flagship, the Moto Z2 Force, has a lot going for it. Right off the bat, you're looking at top-of-the-line specifications. Underneath the 5.5-inch Quad HD Super AMOLED display lies a Qualcomm Snapdragon 835 octa-core processor, 4GB of RAM, 64GB of storage, which is expandable up to 2TB by a microSD card, and a 2,730 mAh battery. All of this is covered with Motorola's water-resistant nano coating, which will protect it from rain, but no dips in the pool for you. This phone is available on all major US networks. Our unit was an AT&T model, and features Qualcomm's technology, which makes a theoretical 1GB network connection speed possible, if you're lucky enough to live in an area with 1GB speeds. Around the sides of the phone, you'll find the tiny power and volume keys. The power key has a rough texture to it that makes it stand out from the volume keys, but all are pretty darn tiny, and we're not so sure that's a good thing. What is definitely not a good thing is the solitary USB port on the bottom of the phone. There is no headphone jack. Our review unit did not include a headphone adapter in the box, but Motorola says AT&T retail models will include one. On the back, you'll find dual 12-megapixel cameras, which we will discuss later, and Motorola's now famous Moto Mod connector. On the front is a 5-megapixel selfie camera with flash, and at the bottom, we have a fingerprint sensor. If you watched our review of the Moto G5 Plus, you'll find the fingerprint sensor to be rather familiar. The fingerprint sensor is fast and accurate. It can also serve as a back and multitasking buttons with left and right swipes respectively. Plus, it serves as a home button, lock screen button, and Google Assistant launcher with progressively longer taps. The screen itself is a more traditional 16:9 aspect ratio with 70.4% screen-to-body ratio. This is, well, it's okay. But with the introduction of the 18:9 and almost 80% screen-to-body ratio that Samsung and LG phones give us, this is really only okay for this year. Time will tell if the 18:9 ratio remains, though we suspect it will. This type of screen doesn't feel dated really, but it might by this time next year. On the software side, Motorola has our favorite skin of Android so far this year. Many of the tricks in the G5 Plus are also in this phone, including the up arrow to access the app launcher and the ease of the split screen. But Motorola does something that is delightful and frankly overdue. Much of the software, including the home screen, lock screen, and settings menu, works in landscape. You just don't see this too often, and it's rather refreshing. Too often, you're watching Netflix or playing a game, and when you return to the home screen, you have to turn your phone. It's a little off-putting. Make no mistake, this is not the reason you will buy this phone, or at least it certainly shouldn't be. But it will be a fun experience once you do buy it. Also, Motorola introduced a new feature called Show Me to the Moto experience. At any time, just ask the phone, show me my calendar, or show me the weather, and the phone will give you a 5-second glance of the desired information. If you want to open an app, just say, show me MLB at bat, and you're rolling. Much like the OK Google hot word of old, this works on any screen or even while the phone is asleep. Add to that Motorola's glance display, drive mode, gesture launch of the camera and flashlight, and this is simply a fun and easy phone to use. Put simply, Motorola is absolutely killing it in the software department, and we're happy to see that tradition continue in 2017. The Moto Z2 Force sports dual 12-megapixel camera sensors, each with an f2.0 aperture. Much like Huawei phones, one sensor is color and the other is black and white. This allows the cameras to capture crisp detail. Colors on the photos tend to skew towards the cool side, but only slightly. The dual cameras also allow for fun features like selective blur and true black and white mode, both of which are separate modes from the auto setting. Depth Enabled mode allows you to take portraits of subjects and blur the background, make it selectively black and white, or even eliminate the background and insert it into another photo. Sometimes the results are cute, and sometimes, well, they're just weird. After the sun goes down, the Moto Z2 Force struggles. Low-light photos are somewhat bright, but almost without exception have pretty soft focus. Moving subjects are not going to work out very well in that scenario. The Moto Z2 Force is continuing the tradition of Moto mods, accessories that enhance and transform your phone with a magnetic snap. Our review unit came with a 360-degree camera mod, which is a ton of fun to work with. When the mod is attached, the 360 camera takes over as the primary camera on the device. What this means is that the first twist of the wrist will launch the 360 camera. A second twist switches to the rear camera, and a third twist switches to the selfie cam. The Moto mod software is seamless, activating when the mod is attached and deactivating when the mod is taken away. It's a smart way to do modular smartphone. On the performance end, there are no major complaints. The processor and RAM are more than capable of keeping up with everyday tasks. Even hardcore tasks, like editing 360-degree video, is simple for the Moto Z2 Force. There's very little lag to be found anywhere, even during the most heavy-duty tasks. On the battery side, there are several confusing points to address here. We have a 2,730 mAh battery, which is significantly less than last year's 3,500 mAh battery. Putting that aside, this battery will still give you what Motorola calls all-day battery life. Plus, the included charger will give you up to 8 hours of extra juice in just 15 minutes. Now, in our testing, 15 minutes of charging gave us 25% more battery life. If that's the case, and if that equals 8 hours, then the math is a little confusing here. But putting that aside, the battery on the phone will get you through a day, with anywhere between 15 to 20% left in the tank when you lay your head down to sleep. Now to wrap this up, we're going to look at one major upside and one major downside to this phone. First, we're going to take a look at the downside. The phone itself is too darn thin. It's impressively light and impressively thin, but we have to ask whether or not that's a good thing. At the expense of shaving off less than 1 millimeter in thickness, we've lost 22% of last year's battery. Just think about that for a minute. But it's not just thinness. Add to that the exposed contacts on the back of the phone that accept the Moto mods, and frankly, the phone is weird looking when a Moto mod isn't attached. What both of these concepts point to is that this phone is designed to be used with a mod, period. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing, but in our case, with a 360-degree camera that we didn't necessarily always want to have, we had a funny-looking phone when we didn't have it attached. Now, the phone is already expensive at $720 and up, depending on your carrier. Should you have to spend extra money to make your phone look like other phones? Should you have to have a mod in order to make your phone not look funny? I'm not so sure about that. But let's consider that extra money for a second. What exactly is that getting you? Well, remember those shattered screens that we talked about at the beginning of this review? That is precisely what you will not get from this phone. Let's consider the last phones that we have used as daily drivers. There's the Blue Pure XR, the Huawei Honor 8, the iPhone 6s, the LG G6, the Moto G5 Plus, and then there's the Moto Z2 Force. Notice anything different about those other phones? You don't need to put a case on this phone. As a matter of fact, you can drop this phone all day long, and it'll come out smiling on the other side. Motorola's 5-layer screen protection system makes this phone screen darn near shatterproof, to the point where Motorola dares you to break it at launch events. Now, the phone screen itself is pretty scratch-prone. Our review unit carried marks on the screen pretty much from the first day on. The scratches don't really show up much when the screen is on, but when the screen is off, they're almost all you see. Motorola actually recommends using a third-party screen protector to protect against scratching. I'm not kidding. But cracks in the screen are a thing of the past. So is the price too high? Considering the confidence that you can have that this phone will last and last and last whatever punishment you put it through? Maybe not. As always, your mileage will vary. If you're accident prone, or if you've been to the repair shop more than once in the last 2 years, you might want to give this phone a long look. That's going to do it for our full review of the Moto Z2 Force and 360 camera Moto mod. Give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, and be sure to comment down below. Is the Moto Z2 Force your next phone? Share this video with all your friends and loved ones, and don't forget to subscribe. Once again, I'm Adam Dowd, Dead Technology on Twitter, reminding you to always enjoy your entertainment.